Good morning, everyone. So I like that passage where it says, love keeps no record of wrongs. I'm thinking of a notebook. Things written in it, you know. Well, if you have this message outline, you can go ahead and get it. It's an insert in the bulletin. So tell me if you recognize this picture. That is the beautiful Golden Gate Bridge. It spans the San Francisco Bay from San Francisco to Marin County in California. Construction began in 1933, right in the height of the Depression, and it was completed around 1937. It's 1.7 miles across. It is one of the most iconic structures in North America, and it is one of the most photographed bridges in the world. And when I look at the Golden Gate Bridge, metaphorically, I think of relationships. Because relationships are a lot like bridges in that they have to be built strong to carry a lot of weight and weather unpredictable storms. But like a bridge, a relationship can collapse from neglect, conflict, or misunderstanding. You may remember in 2007, the Interstate 35 bridge, Twin Cities, Minnesota, collapsed. And unfortunately, a number of people died. Dozens of people were injured. But when they built the bridge in the late 1960s in the interstate program, there were tons of concrete and all kinds of steel and rebar. And you look at the bridge and say, wow, that bridge is so strong. And yet, it collapsed. The world is littered with a lot of broken relationships. Husbands, ex-husbands, and ex-wives, parents and children, employers and employees, family members, neighbors, people at school and at church. The question that we want to deal with is this: how do you rebuild the bridge to restore a relationship? As bad as that tragedy was, within 1 year it was rebuilt because it's such an important bridge. They put a lot of resources into it. How do you rebuild a bridge and restore a relationship? Well, like most things in life, there's good news and there's bad news. So we're going to get the bad news out of the way first, and then we can just enjoy the good news. The bad news. Oh, bad news out, bad news out? Okay, well, go ahead. You can put those in. All right, good. I didn't even see. Okay, good. We'll get them in. And now I'm going to start over with the Golden Gate Bridge. This mess, please. So much for those copper dials. Try these silver ones. Oh, man, we got the Energizer bunnies now. These are bad, too? All right, brother. Do I need this on, then? Oh, I'd love to take this thing off. I was asking Stephen, don't they make these things wireless by now? In 2017, this isn't 1998. Okay.
They're good.
Make sure it's my collar. Okay. Good. Right here, we're ready to go. Okay. So we're dealing with this question. How do you rebuild a bridge to a relationship? As I said, there's good news and bad news. We're going to deal with the bad news. The bad news is you are going to have relational breakdowns throughout life because you mess up, other people mess up, And because no two people are perfect, guess what? No relationship is going to be perfect. That's the bad news. Now here is the good news. The good news is that many relationships can be repaired with one simple key that you don't hear very much about, certainly not on TV unless you happen to be on a religious channel watching religious programming, but even on that, you don't hear it very much. Now, you may be thinking, oh, the key, I know what the key is. The key is, this is so easy, the key is forgiveness. That is the key to restoring a relationship. Oh, forgiveness is a good one. That is a good one. But that's not the key. You mean, it's not, oh, well, it's honesty. Honesty is the key. Oh, honesty is good. But that's not the key we're talking about. Well, then it must be something like commitment or communication. All of those are outstanding. But forgiveness and honesty and commitment and communication all flow out of a deeper, foundational quality. And are you ready for that quality? You already know what it is because you've read the title at the top of the outline. Humility. That's the key. Humility. Now take a look at this passage in 1 Peter 5:5. He says, all of you, clothe yourselves with humility toward one another, because God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. What this says is that we are not dressed for successful relationships until we have clothed ourselves with humility. And there are over, I personally counted them, there are over 70 passages in the Bible talking about the importance of humility. Well, if humility is at the foundation and at the core of restoring a relationship or just having a good relationship, what does humility mean? Well, there's a lot of different definitions, but I put one on the outline. This is just a general definition. This is how we'll be using it in the message. But generally, humility. A personal awareness of my own sinfulness, along with an appreciation for the grace or inner strength God gives me to make positive, Bible-centered changes in my behavior and relationships. So what does that mean on a practical level? It means that humility is when you walk in a room, you are not thinking, how good do I look? But rather you're thinking, what are the needs of the people in this room? So we're going to take a look at 6 steps to humbly restoring a relationship. And each one of these requires humility in increasing amounts. One reason why restoring a relationship can be a challenge is because of the amount of humility that is needed in order for it to be accomplished. So we're going to start off with step 1, which is going to be easy, and then it's going to become a little more difficult as we go all the way up to step 6. And it's possible that around step 3, some of you could even leave. But step 1. Step 1. You want to know what step 1 is? Ask God for help. Ask God for help. Now this one is first because it is something that you are already doing. So it's relatively easy. But listen, even asking God for help requires a measure of humility on our part, because don't a lot of times we think, I can handle it on my own. I can handle this on my own. I can do it on my own. So even this step, this easiest step, requires some humility. This is James 4:6. It says, God opposes the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. So the requirement for God's grace is humility. We define what humility is generally, but what is this grace that He has promised to give us? Well, grace is another word that is very broad, but here's a general definition of biblical grace. It's the inner strength God gives me to change my life and adapt a more Christ-like lifestyle, resulting in better relationships and more of a willingness to offer and receive forgiveness. As long as you are self-centered and think you have it all together, it's going to be more difficult to restore a relationship. When you humble yourself and say, Lord, I need your help, it releases God's power and it increases the possibility of restoring the relationship. So step one is ask God for help. I know we're already doing that, but we need to be reminded of it, right? Do you think football teams need to be reminded every week to block and tackle and catch passes, even though they already know those are things they're supposed to do? Yes. Step two, affirm the value of the other person. Affirm the value of the other person. Now, as a Christian, God is looking for you to take the initiative. You remember the golden rule? Do unto others. We are the ones taking the initiative, right? We are the ones who are doing unto others. So you are the one who is going to tell the person why you believe the relationship is worth saving, why you want it to be saved. Now, I don't think all relationships are worth saving. You will have to be the judge of the ones that are. And you're going to have to tell them why you're putting forth the effort and the energy to make it right. And that is going to take a lot of humility and in some cases a little bit of creativity too, as to why you want the relationship to continue. So here's Romans 12:10. Have a profound respect for each other. That's the Jerusalem Bible. I think it has a broader application than Christians in a church. I think it applies to relationships. We need to have a profound respect for the other person. I'm going to read a quote, and I'll tell you where it came from. The other night, a few nights ago, I was reading a book online. So do you want to know the title of the book that I was reading? The Confident Woman Guidebook. Published in 2014. I wasn't reading all of it. I read chapter 8 of the Confident Woman Guidebook because I'm trying to learn about women. I know so little. This is the quote. I pulled it out of her book. Conflict exists because the other person doesn't feel like they're getting the proper respect, end quote. And that is certainly true in marriage and in other relationships, because sometimes you have to verbally tell the person, I value you. You are important to me. This relationship is important. So here's Philippians 2:3. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Tell me if this would work in a relationship. But in humility, there's our humility again. What thing's popping up in all of these important passages on relationships? But in humility, consider others better than yourselves. Now, I know we do a good job of this mentally, but how do you do this practically? How do you demonstrate this? A couple of things. Number one, listen to the other person's perspective. Listen to their perspective. Listening is one way to show honor and respect because you are affirming their value by giving them your time, and time is a non-renewable resource. Water is a renewable resource. Trees are a renewable resource. Time is not a renewable resource. We have 24 hours allotted to us each day, and when it's gone, it is gone. So when you're giving a person your time, they recognize you are giving them something that is very important. And 2, validate the other person's feelings. Is that what it is? Yeah, validate the other person's feelings. Now, you don't have to agree with all of their feelings, but when a person comes to you and says something like, "Oh, I am just so down and depressed," don't respond, "Down and depressed? Why are you down and depressed? Well, you shouldn't be depressed. Oh, that really helps. You just invalidated their feelings." You say something like, "I'm sorry," or "I understand what you're going through. I understand how you are feeling." So step 1, ask God for help. Step 2, you're going to affirm the other person's value. You are valuable to me. This relationship is valuable. Now this next one, we're going to turn the heat up a little bit, and I want you to stay seated. Do not walk out. They're getting tougher as we go. We're only at step 3. We have 6. We're only halfway, so don't give up halfway up Mount Everest. Acknowledge my responsibility. Acknowledge my responsibility. This is going to take a little bit more of determination. You know, the asking God, that's pretty easy. Even affirming somebody else's values, that's pretty easy. But now we're talking about, something that's really, really personal. This is Galatians 6:5. It says, each person must be responsible for himself. You can't build a strong, healthy relationship without accepting responsibility for your part. A problem in a relationship usually is not one person's problem, it is our problem. And when you focus all the blame and assign all the guilt to the other person, the relationship isn't going to move anywhere very fast. Here is a key thought. We have to come face to face with the fact that we are essentially selfish people, and we do not naturally think of the other person first. Now, as a person matures, hopefully they become a little bit less self-centered and a little bit more other people-centered, but a lot of that depends on 2 things. Number 1, the environment that they grew up in, and number 2, the kind of connection that they have to the Lord. Acknowledging your part of the problem and taking responsibility in the relationship is the step that can break the gridlock and get the relationship moving again. Which now brings us to our quiz. I have a quiz. Now, you're not going to have to shout out anything, or we're not going to move the yeses to this side and the no's to that side and then shame the no's. We're not going to do anything. This is okay. Now, this is the quiz. The quiz is, now the quiz really begins with the question. And the question is, do any of these phrases make you choke? Okay, are you ready for the quiz? You ready for it? Please forgive me. I am sorry. I was wrong. Now, if any of those caused a lump to develop in your throat, then it's going to be a little bit more challenging in restoring a relationship. It's not like that 1970 movie Love Story, and I love the theme of Love Story, especially Andy Williams' version that has the words attached to it. But there's that phrase in the movie that has become a part of our American folklore. It's repeated twice. Love is never having to say you're sorry. You know what I think about that? That's the sorriest phrase I've ever heard. Love is saying multiple times a day, I am sorry. Love is saying sorry all the time. So step 3 is acknowledge my responsibility. And then step 4 is we're going to allow people to be human. I know that's kind of a little bit of a pun there. I mean, all people are human. But we're going to allow people to be human. Here's the reason this is important. A lot of times we hold people to a standard that we don't even keep ourselves. I am holding you to a 10. Personally, I hold myself to a 5.5. But I am holding you to a 10. I have all of these expectations for you that I don't have for myself, but I have them for you. This is Colossians 3:13. You must make allowance. See that word allowance? Biblical. You must make allowance for each other's faults and forgive the person who offends you. Remember, watch this, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. So notice the motivation. You have been forgiven, so be forgiving toward others, cut people some slack, and allow them to be human. Now, this is a general principle that has to be applied to individual situations. I am not suggesting that your teenage son or daughter who is on drugs or is an alcoholic, that you're going to stand by and say, Dad, it's just being human. So we have limits on the application of some of these principles. So you know generally what I'm talking about. Now, I don't know of any of these 6 steps that will do more to reduce friction in a relationship than to stop expecting perfection. You won't be disappointed all the time because you realize people are not perfect. And since I've come to that realization, my life has been made a whole lot easier. Just by understanding people, I'm surely not perfect. Other people aren't perfect. And so there's going to be mistakes. Things are not always going to go the way that you want them to. Not always everything's going to happen just the way that you want it to happen. We have this little ideal world. So allow people to be human. Step 5 is meet the other person's needs. Meet the other person's needs. Listen, it's one thing to recognize their needs. I recognize your needs. It's another thing to affirm their needs. I affirm you have these needs. But it's a whole other ball game to try to meet them. So this is Philippians 2:4. Look out for one another's interest, not just for your own. That's the principle. The truth is, we want everybody to be ready to adjust to us. I will love you like no one's loved you if you will just adjust to me. Adjust to me. Be mine. Adjust to me. The Bible says we need to be prepared to do the opposite. Now, you're going to be making the application of these principles in your individual relationships. This is Romans 15:2. It says we should please others. If we do what helps them, we will build them up in the Lord. Now, this is in the context of Christians getting along with each other in matters of opinion, a discussion that started back in chapter 14. They were having arguments over the 3 Ds. Diet, days, and drinks. What we can drink, can't drink. What days we can keep, can't keep. And what drinks we can drink and not drink. So they had this debate going on. But the broader application is that we want to be open-minded and willing to please the other person. Now, if you are married and there's been a little bit of a struggle, and there's kind of been a sense of being apart, we're going to put something up here and it's going to bring you very close together. I don't know of anything that will bring a married couple closer together than bungee jumping. I mean, when your wife says to you, honey, I just don't feel like we're close in the relationship like we used to be, that's when you suggest bungee jumping. Because let me tell you, you get close when they tie your feet together and the both of you voluntarily jump off a bridge. You ever seen a couple closer than that? I saw that in an article on relationships that I was reading preparing this lesson. That's where I saw that. So I said, that looks great. It gets the point across, doesn't it? So that you may not do the bungee jumping. But then, on the other hand, maybe you will. How many of you have bungee jumped? A few? A few. That's not as many as I thought. What a boring group. I thought you all did more exciting things than that. All right. Now, this next step is the one that often stops us dead in our tracks. And it is the ultimate act of humility, and I believe that you can only do it effectively when you're looking at the world from God's perspective and not your own. This is number 6. This is the peak. Be flexible in demanding your rights. I'm talking about in a relationship. Be flexible in demanding your rights. Now, have you noticed that in America, we don't care as much about our responsibilities as we care about our rights?
Amen.
From the moment we're born, we're taught, well, you have to stand up for yourself because no one else is going to stand up for you. Stand up like a man. Stand up like a woman. Well, on a national level, an American citizen has rights and can demand those rights legitimately so because we are a nation of law. And when Paul and Silas were arrested in Acts chapter 16 and they're getting ready to beat Paul, Paul said, oh, by the way, before you whip me, I am a Roman citizen. He demanded his rights. So there's nothing wrong with that as a citizen. On a relational level, demanding all the time what you feel is your rights can get you into trouble. On a relational level. So I have 2 examples, they're both true. A husband and then a wife. A 61-year-old husband said, I have a right to a beautiful wife. He's 61 and he's saying it. And that was his excuse for leaving his wife of more than 30 years for a 38-year-old woman. Now I'm reading that and I'm thinking, is there something else going on here? I mean, and I don't have any issue with age differences. There's no biblical mandate on that. But, I mean, in our culture, does a 38-year-old woman normally and naturally want a 61-year-old guy? I said, there's something more to this. That's when I discovered he was super wealthy. And I think the money made up the difference for the age gap. That's what I'm thinking on that. Okay, a wife said, this was in the news, I read it, it's a few years old, like 2012. This is what she said. I have a right to a husband who can finance the things I need in my life. And that was her excuse for divorcing her husband because he wasn't making enough money. I need somebody who can finance my lifestyle. Always demanding what one feels is their right is a major cause of marital breakdown. And I came across this passage so interesting in the Message paraphrase. Are you ready? This is the Message paraphrase, 1 Corinthians 7:4. Marriage is not a place to stand up for your rights. Wow. Marriage is a decision to serve one another. That's right. Marriage is a decision to put somebody else's needs ahead of your own. And I'm here to say Marriage is not a 50-50 proposition. That is not marriage. That is negotiation. That's what you do when you buy a house or a car. You try to get the other person down as low as they'll go. Marriage is 100%, 100%. Who can outdo the other in honoring and in serving? Now, the ultimate example of giving up rights is Jesus. Now, this passage in Philippians 2, 5 through 7 has been the subject of many volumes because it's very theologically rich, very deep, but I believe there's a lesson in it for us right up on the surface. It says this: your attitude should be the same as Christ Jesus had. Though he was God, he did not demand and cling to his rights as God. Instead of this, of his own free will, he gave up all he had and took the nature of a servant. Jesus, in the ultimate act of humility, gave up his right and position in heaven to come to earth to show us his plan. Why did he do it? Because he loves you and he cares for you. It's the same reason why you give up certain things in a relationship, or you try to see something from a different perspective because of love. So as we look at these 6 levels of humility, where are you right now? Don't say all of you are at step 1. Now, to take these steps and possibly restore a relationship, we're going to need 2 additional things: endurance and encouragement. Now, here's why. Nobody gets into a problem relationship overnight. Nobody's getting out of a problem relationship overnight. Maintaining and growing a relationship requires honesty and tears and pain and forgiveness and confession, and that's why good relationships are a challenge. So where are we going to get this endurance and this encouragement? I know somebody that Lowe's. We get everything at Lowe's. You can go to the customer service department and say, "I'm here, and I'd like to take a look at your family endurance and encouragement package. I saw it online, and I'm here to check it out." Well, this is something that Lowe's doesn't have. One of the few things they don't have. This is Romans 15:5. May God, who gives you this endurance and encouragement, allow you to live in harmony with each other by following the example of Christ Jesus. So the starting point is you build a relationship with Jesus. Living a life without God, I believe, can lead to more frustration than is necessary. Get the vertical right, and then there is a much greater chance the horizontal will come into focus. If we get the vertical, then we can maybe work on the horizontal. So I want to leave you with this key thought. Many people are at war with other people because they are at war with God, essentially. And if we can keep that vertical open and going, I think it's going to go a long ways in helping with the horizontal. A couple of weeks ago, not last week, but the 2 weeks before that, I put a little prayer at the end of the outline, and several of you said you'd like that. So I thought I'd try to make it a somewhat regular feature. And this is the prayer that I would like to share with us, and it's on your outline, and you can use it and adapt it. Here's what it says. Father, help me to take these steps of humility and maturity so I can love you and other people on a deeper level. I admit that I'm often a prideful person. Today, I acknowledge that my pride has often created conflict, hurt feelings, and breaks in my relationships. I humbly ask you for your help. I want to take these steps of humility, but I can't do it on my own. I need your grace. In Jesus' name, amen. So it's beautiful. I think we have some things available to us as Christians that other people may not have available to them. We just have to incorporate these principles and submit ourselves to the Lord. Stephen is going to lead us in our invitation hymn. And if you have a need, perhaps putting Jesus on in baptism, that'd be a great thing. That's where it all starts. Or if you would like for us to intercede and pray on your behalf, please let us know what you need while we stand and sing.
Have you been